So let's
Yes.
let's get into it. Let's talk about this story that you told in Branson, and I'm just going to give you the floor, and you just take your time, give us all the details you can possibly think of. Let's hear it.
Okay. It was again, Daniel, it should be the most ridiculous thing you're ever going to hear. Except this is exactly what happened. I was there. I know what I saw. I wasn't the only person there. This was one of the investigations that the minute we got back to the witness house, we called the state director. There were many other people up there investigating after. So this was a big deal. This is a really big deal. But what I'd like to focus on is exactly what happened to us that night. Um, and this was, I had a witness call. This is in 2010. A witness called me saying that he was, seeing these orange orbs and some things around the house. And very credible witness. He lived out in like really backwoods Tennessee. I think I joke and say I've never seen that much corn and nothing for like ever. Like driving down a road, I've never seen that much nothing in corn. But it was one of these, just really compelling UFO encounters or reports that, the more I interviewed the witness, and this was more than one or two times, I just knew I had to get out there. Well, this is also the same time that Nashville and all the way to Memphis had that epic flood. And so that postponed us for a little bit. And as the waters were receding, I kept track of when I could go out there. So I was supposed to be out there like the next Saturday. And then Thursday he calls me and says, this is exactly, there's things going on right now. And this is what happens when all hell breaks loose. So I'm like, that's it. Get my go bag. It's in my truck. I drive up to Memphis and I pick up the other Bufon investigator and we take off. And we get to his driveway and he was waiting for us. And I think the first thing he said was, oh my gosh, thank goodness. He says, I wasn't really sure what you guys are going to look like or be like, because I'm driving to a stranger's house and he's getting one too. So that was kind of good. It was a good impression. But immediately he asked us to walk to the edge of his driveway because he's like, look, it's already going on. This is what I was telling you about. And he started pointing up to the sky. And there's these it took my eyes a minute to focus in and then just see what he was really talking about. But there's almost like these star things up there, and you'd see them come together in a formation, and they would move in a formation, and then they would just be gone. And observable movement that is something that we, right angles, they stop. It was just, this is exactly what we're looking for. I've been here 5 minutes and I'm already like wanting to happy dance because this is some of the best stuff I've ever personally witnessed. This is so cool. But I'm on my, my little tablet, like I'm looking up satellites, I'm looking up where's the ISS, our usual suspects. And, it isn't just accept that. There's a lot of work we do hitting checks. So it was a little bit, if you got bored looking at this one, he'd say, look, they're all over. And I was just like, what the? I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to take my eyes off it at all. We're trying to do everything we can. I don't even have my equipment out of my car yet. It was like, ah. Then the witness asked if we'd be okay going to the cornfield that he has down the road. And it was because it had a panoramic view. This was like hundreds of acres. I'm just like, when we first got there, I'm like, this is all your corn? Like, what do you do with all this corn? Like, like it was crazy. Huge place with a perimeter of trees way down the road. This is all his property. It's just, that's how big it was. It's also not in a town or not even close to one. So there's no light pollution. The sky was so friggin' amazing. But we decided to jump in his truck. Like looking back on this stuff, what am I thinking, Daniel? I don't know this guy. Yeah, let me jump in your truck and go to a cornfield, right? So anyway, he pulls up and we get out of the truck and I'm setting up equipment on the back on this little table and the other investigators walking around, and we were able to get into the middle of the cornfield because this is April and May. And so the corn's only like 4 or 5 inches high. It's real pliable, no problem. Waters had receded enough that we weren't sinking in mud, but you could see every move we made. So started getting all my equipment out, and all of a sudden, again, the witness is getting, just so happy. He's like, oh my God, here it comes. This is exactly what I was hoping. This is why I told you to come up. I mean, he's just beyond himself excited. And I knew what that feeling was for him. It was, someone else is going to see what I've been seeing and tell me what this is. So I look over, and sure enough, I see this light coming, and it's pretty bright light, and it's kind of heading towards us. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and you get that spider sense at that point. And then I had two more lights show up. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's three. And as it's getting closer, I could see very clearly there are edges. It's like this is one object with three lights. It's not three independent lights. And you can see them blocking out stars. And it's huge. It is so big. And it's silent. You don't hear anything. At that point, we couldn't even hear a cicada. I'm not hearing frogs. I'm not even hearing a wind. It's silent. It never changed height, speed, maneuverability. Like it doesn't glide, it doesn't fly. It's so hard to describe how it moved, but it literally came over that entire cornfield. I could put a magazine up, open the magazine, it wouldn't even come close to covering that craft. It was huge. I'm blown away. I am like freaking out at this point because the minute I start seeing this, I've got my cameras. I have 4 cameras, all different makes and models. I am picking them up. And everything is done. Nothing is working. And I'm so frustrated because how many times do we hear somebody talk about, oh my gosh, I saw this great thing. And you're like, well, didn't you think to bring your cell phone? It wasn't working. Like, why don't you have a picture, right? Anyway, everything, I'm thinking total battery drained. My trifield meter isn't working. My mel meter isn't working. I can't get any EMF. I can't even check for a radio signal. I dropped an F-bomb or two because I'm like, I'm about ready to throw this effing camera across this field. I was so mad and frustrated. And at the same time, trying to keep my eyes on everything so I can get every detail I can. As the triangle, flew over us, and like I said, it just kept going its merry little way, and we kind of watched it go away. And the further it got away, all of a sudden I noticed a couple lights on, and I'm like, my equipment's back on. I don't know if it was jammed, I'm not sure, but battery drain is something that's very common in paranormal, Bigfoot, UFO investigations. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to change the batteries anyway. But at this point, the witness is all excited saying, that's it. Like, what is that? Like, this is ridiculous, right? And, and the other investigator, she's just looking at me, and I'm like waiting for the witness to turn around so I could be like, what? Did you see that? Like, and happy dance a little, right? I was so excited. And, so I started taking the cap off of my trifield meter, and all of a sudden, it was like I just kind of had this weird feeling. Those spidey senses were still there, and they were getting more intense. And I said, hey guys, I said, does anybody else feel like you're being watched? And I don't mean from up there. And it was about time I put my hand up, and this very physical thing just hit me. And I have never felt terror or fear like that in my entire life. It was not fight or flight. It was fight or flight times 1,000. The only way I can describe what that felt like was horrific, and every single cell in my body knew what terror was. And I just remember turning, and I started running. When I started running, I noticed the witness turned the same direction, and he went running too. We were all running in the same direction. No one knew why. I mean, why am I running? And I'm just following this light, and this white light's just doing this, just back and forth. And I just remember being focused on that light. And then all of a sudden, bam, I hit something, and it was hard. And I just remember reaching forward because I was going to fall back. I hit him so hard, and it turned out to be the witness. He had stopped. Remember, this place is dark. It's like I can't describe how dark it's bad, this cornfield. And I just heard him say, what the F is that? And he had one of those halogen big, I'm a hunter type flashlight, big chunky thing. And he said, what the F was that? And it was in his left hand, and he swung his hand out, and not 6 feet from us is this being. And my first thing I remember thinking was, his legs aren't normal. Like, this isn't normal. His legs are way too thin. And then I think the very next thing I thought of was, oh my God, this is not the cute little Roswell alien. What we saw was, it was just odd. And I looked at it right in the eyes. It was not 6 feet from us. I could have lunged it. And then the next thing I know, I'm just running again. I don't know why. We were just running. All of us, the other investigator was already at the truck, and Bet should have said it was one of those really high trucks, and she was having a hard time getting in. The witness just runs and throws her up like that, throws me up in the truck. He runs around. We left that cornfield so fast. Excuse me. We caught air coming out. We get up in his driveway, and of course, the witnesses really nobody's saying anything. Nobody's saying a word at this moment. And it was, I think I was the first one that just kind of chuckled and said, like, what just happened? What is going on? Because now I realize I don't know when that fear left, but at that point it wasn't with me. But I'm thinking back on, like, why did we run? Like, what is going on? It was very confusing. It really was for a while. Very shocking, actually. And yeah, we got up there. It was strange. Yeah, that's a big one.
Mm.
Even as I'm driving home, I'm thinking, come on, guys, that's BS. I'm calling BS on this. Like, nobody gets all of that in one night. And what was that being doing there? So, but once we got back, I realized the investigators became witnesses. So we had to call the state director. We were making all our calls, getting more people out there because we couldn't talk about it until we were all interviewed separately. And then, all the things came back to me. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there was a being there. There's footprints. Like I have to get back out there. So we were back out in that field. But to have that fear, it's unimaginable, and I don't wish that on anything. And it was brutal. Every once in a while, like I'm driving down the road or something, I'm by myself, it's late at night, and I'll start thinking about this, and you get that little twinge back, and it's like stop the car, get out, walk around, get some fresh air for a minute. Just don't want to go back there. But what I do know is whatever was going on there, we weren't supposed to be there, and that was the only way to get rid of us because nobody saw the being and got scared and ran. That's not what happened. We didn't even know it was there. When we ran into it. In fact, we ran straight to it and then left again. There was no option to stay. I just remember, even when we were running, I remember thinking, wow, I'm running really fast.
Hi.
like the things that were going through your head. And I also don't remember when that fear left. So there was a lot of strangeness. Now, there was the witness, two investigators, but the witnesses' cousins, there were three of them, also came down when the triangle came over. They left after that. They were done. And I also wondered if maybe they could have brought the being out, or and just something like that. And I knew that was ridiculous, but I had to investigate that. And all the photographs just show I could see where our feet were. There's nothing else around there. They couldn't have walked those out there. They would have left a trail. And the other part was I saw it. When you look into the eyes and when that flashlight hit that being, Daniel, how do you go from pitch black, like that cornfield was, with this big halogen, flashlight 6 feet from your face and not do this or anything? There was nothing except these big black eyes that were just as real as could be. I'm like, done. I'm like, that's there's so many oddities. And the legs not being normal, we realized later, the way the being was standing in the flashlight, we were only getting the sides of them because they were way too small to hold them up. And I realized the light wasn't showing us the whole leg. But that didn't come for about 3 weeks after. So, this investigation went on for a long time. And it was also something that George and Nat, Bigelow, and all of them were very interested in because this is some of the stuff they were seeing at Skinwalker Ranch.